Hi, this is Lisa from CreativeCanines.blogspot.com, and this is a Copic video tutorial about finding a light source and using the transparency as well as other techniques to help you find a light source. When I first gave information about what supplies are needed for the class, I suggested that you make a template. I made mine in acetate. I drew a circle with a smiley face to represent the sun, and lines which represented rays of light about every 1/4 of an inch apart. It's not exact, it's not even pretty. It's a big mess actually, because I used it a lot when I first started. And let me show you how this works. Okay? I'm using images today from Fred She Said, and they do digital images. And this is one of their more simple image, and I thought this was a really great image to look at light source. If I lay my template over top, and I have my light source coming from directly over top or overhead, the sun is coming this direction, then everything that these lines touch, okay, in the pink, is going to be the lightest portion of my image. It's better if you can look at the image in pieces, okay? If I look at each individual petal, it makes it easier for me to figure out my light source. Light source here, lightest here, the lines are leaving the image here, so this is the darkest area. Now, to be able to have a light, you need to have a dark. Light and dark oppose each other, just like in the Western movies, where you have the bad guys fight the good guys. Although you're not wanting your colors to fight, per se, but you want the same colors to coexist in this petal in order to show shading and blending and highlighting. The same is, does anybody here love Lost? I mean, love Lost. So you have Lost, right? The Lostonians and the others, okay? They both occupy the same island, okay? So the thing that makes this image great is now I don't have to redo my image. I can turn my image, turn my light source. If I want my light source to come from the side, okay, once again, my lightest areas are here, okay, where the rays or the lines hit, where the lines leave that image, or where the darkest portion of my color are going to be. Now, I can also think of that as a clock. Now, this is another image from Fred She Said. I believe it's Lily of the Valley. I'm not really good with flowers. I'm from Arizona. And there are basically 3 directions that we tend to use light source. There are 4 in general, but 3 that we use all the time. The first would be around the clock. 12, 11, and 1 o'clock, okay, are an overhead light source. 10, 9, 8, all those directions around are a side light source. And for me, that's my left side. And the other side, the right side, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. Okay? Now, every once in a while, you're going to use your light source from underneath. Okay? If you had a picture where there was a candle in it, and the candle was illuminating from underneath an object, you would have your light source at 6, 7, or 5. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Lily of the Valley image, and I'm going to show you on this image where the light source is going to be, and then we're going to talk about some more images that Fred She Said has and show you on there where my light source is. Now, if I'm doing it over top or a 12 o'clock or an overhead light source, the lightest areas are going to be here. My darkest areas are going to be where this leaves, okay, which is down towards the bottom. And for this one, and my markers are incredibly dirty, please forgive them. I usually clean them up before my videos, but I didn't have time tonight. G24, a G21, and a G20. Okay. I'm going to start with my G24, and I'm going to make my dark area down here. This is where those lines were leaving on the transparency. Now the great thing about these markers is that you can go in and add more dark. I add dark around anything that would be shading the image also. These little flowers are going to be shading the image. So around those flowers are going to be the darker color. I'm doing this very quickly just for demonstration. Now I'm going to add in my lightest color. And the way with blending is as you go over that color, originally you'll notice that there's still a line there. But if you go over again with the light feather strip, you'll start to notice that line vanish or blend in with the other pieces. And because there's such a huge difference between G21 and G20, which is weird, I know, I go over that again just to kind of help blend it in. Lightest area, darkest area where it's leaves, and the middle ground in between. Light and dark oppose each other. Okay. Let me show you this on some other images I've colored. This is another Fred She Said image. These are tulips, and let me I'm going to bring you close into these. These tulips, you can tell where my light source is. The light source comes over from the 11 o'clock. Okay, 10, 11 o'clock. Which is more of a side, off to the side here. Here's where my lines hit. These are the lightest areas, darkest. Okay. Now with the tulips, it's a little different because in tulips, they have this diamond-shaped pattern in the middle. Okay. But this is definitely my lightest portion here. And you can tell, especially on the leaves, where the light's hitting. My lightest portion is here. This is where my lines are hitting. These are where my lines are leaving. Therefore, this is my darkest area. Okay. Lines hitting, lines leaving. Light and dark oppose each other. I hope this cleared things up a little bit for the use of the transparency. You don't have to use it. You can also use something, I've seen a lot of people use scissors. Okay. Where you have your scissors pointed in the direction of where you want your light source. My light source is coming from this way, so everything coming on this direction will be lightest. Everything opposing it is going to be darkest. Once you do this enough, you're eventually going to get the feel for it. I rarely do this anymore. I just know when I look at my image where I want my light, where I want my dark. Overhead, people tend to overuse the overhead light source a lot. Like on this one, my light source is coming from the top. To me, it's not as interesting as a light source coming from the side. I like the light source coming from the side better, but that's really, for me, just a personal preference. A lot of times, though, you can get a hint from where your light source is coming from based upon your image. I'll show you a couple more Fred She Said images. I'm going to stick with the floral theme here. And on this one, my light source is coming from this direction. Okay? And you can see the lighter areas of the flower here, the darker areas oppose it. Okay? This image actually, to me, tells me what direction my light source is coming from. Because the flower is bent this way, to me, it makes me think the light source is coming from this direction. A lot of times what you'll see, especially with people images, is the head will be tilted from one side or the other. And the area where the head is tilted towards, I like to use as my light source or as a clue where my light source should go. I hope this cleared up light source a little bit for you, how to use the template. If you have any other questions, please feel free to post. We will get this. We're going to move on next week to using your light source to color faces and skin tone. Thanks. Have a great week. This is Lisa from www.creativecanines.blogspot.com, and a special thanks to Fred She Said for being able to showcase her wonderful images.